Good morning, students. I welcome you all for another lecture on the course Computer Architecture and Organization. In this class, I am going to discuss about cache memory. From last few classes, we are discussing about memory systems. In the first class, we discussed the interaction part of memory. In the next class, we discussed the types of read-only memories. In this class, I am going to discuss about cache memory. Right. The speed of the main memory is very low in comparison with the speed of modern processors. Absolutely. So here the speed of the main memory is very low in comparison with the speed of modern processors. Sorry. Good morning, students. I welcome you all for another lecture on the course Computer Architecture and Organization. From last couple of classes, we discussed about our memory systems. In that, we discussed the introduction part. Later, we discussed the types of read-only memories. In this class, I am going to explain about the cache memory. Right. The first thing is the speed of the main memory is very low in comparison with the speed of operation of modern processors. If you took your system, the system consists a processor, nothing but a CPU, memory elements and I/O devices. We know that the speed of operation of processor is very high compared to the rest of the devices. That means the speed of operation of processor is high compared to main memory or memory element as well as I/O devices. So, in the first point what I am saying is the speed of operation of main memory is very less or low once it is comparing with the processors or CPUs. For good performance, the processor cannot spend much of its time waiting to access instructions and data from main memory. In order to get a good performance from the system, we have to reduce the CPU time when it is going to access the information from either memory devices as well as I/O devices. Especially here we are focusing on memory elements. That's why in order to get a good performance from the computer system, we have to reduce the time of the central processing unit to access the information from the memory elements. Here the information may be either instructions or it may be a data. Just now we know that, I'll tell you one point, that is the speed of operation of the processor is very high compared to memory elements. So that whenever the processor wants to communicating with either memory elements or with an I/O devices, definitely it has to wait a certain amount of time in order to communicating with such devices. That you have to keep in your mind. An efficient solution is to use cache memory. It can be placed either on the processor or in between a processor and main memory. So here we are only talking about a memory point of view. That's why for get good performance, the processor cannot spend much of its time waiting to access instructions and data from main memory. Whenever the CPU wants some information from the memory as early as possible has to supply that information to its processor or a CPU. If it do that, no doubt the performance of the system is high. But generally the speed of operation of memories are very less compared to processor speed. In order to overcome this difficulty, what we have to do is we have to go and use a cache memories as the best solution. The cache memories we have to go and utilize in order to increase the performance of a computer system. And we can place our cache memories either on the processor itself, or we can go and place our cache memories in between a processor and a main memory. From a few last classes, we know that the cache memories are small and faster memories. Once the memory speeds are very high, no doubt those memories can send informations at faster rate to the processor, or those memories can communicating with the processor without any difficulty. So in order to increase the performance of a system, one of the best solution is you have to go and incorporate a cache memories. Where we can place those cache memories? If you are thinking that direction, there are two options in front of us. One option is either you can go and place the cache memories on the processor. If you have enough space on the CPU, or we have enough space on the processor, I can go and incorporate a cache memory on the processor itself. There is no much space on the processor, then definitely I can go and place my cache memory between a main memory and a processor itself. Once you place a cache memory on the processor, that cache memory, what we can call is generally level 1 cache, or simply called L1 cache. That you have to remember, right? The effectiveness of the cache mechanism is based on a property which is called locality of reference. It is very, very important. The effectiveness of the cache mechanism is based on a property which is called locality of reference. How effective your cache memory? That is purely based on a particular property. What the property is? A locality of a reference. What is a locality of reference? In general, most of the execution time is spent on routines in which many instructions are executed repeatedly. What generally happens in our system is maximum execution time is spent for execution of a fixed routine or a good number of instructions repeatedly, while other instructions are accessed relatively infrequent. That means in a program execution, a processor executes certain number of instructions frequently, and some of them are executed infrequently. This is referred to as locality of reference. Locality of reference. What this means? In general, most of the execution time is spent on routines in which many instructions are executed repeatedly, while the other instructions are accessed relatively infrequently. This is referred to as a locality of reference. That means whatever the instructions repeatedly your processor executes, or whatever the information your CPU repeatedly used in the execution of the instructions, that information I have to go and keep onto my cache memory. Instead of whatever the instructions our processor asks occasionally, or whatever my processor asks data occasionally, compared to that data and that instructions, I can go and store the instructions and data which is repeatedly asked by my processor in the cache memory. That indicates here the locality of reference. Generally, basically, there are two types of locality of references we used in our cache memories. In that, one is the temporal locality of reference, and second one is spatial locality of reference. That means once you are using a cache memories in a system, either we can go and use that is a temporal locality of reference based cache, or second one is spatial locality of reference based cache. We try to identify what the difference between this. In the first case, a temporal locality of reference, it is like this. Recently executed instruction is likely to be executed again very soon. That means whatever the instruction that was executed by the CPU, we keep that instruction still in the cache. The meaning of that one is, in near future also, again my CPU go and ask the same instruction for its execution. That's why I need not be sent back that instruction to the main memory. I keep that instruction again in the cache, because that instruction my CPU executes repeatedly. So that indicates a temporal locality of reference. And the second thing is spatial locality of reference. In this case, the nearby instructions to a recently executed instruction are also likely to be executed soon. That means, for example, this is the program my processor going to execute. In this program, right now I was executing this instruction, and not only bring this instruction from the main memory onto the cache, what are the instructions which are surrounded by these executing instructions? Those are also I bring from main memory and I keep it is onto cache memory, because in near future my processor may go and execute the upcoming instructions also. In case of temporal locality of reference, only the instruction which was executed right now, I can keep that is in a cache. That means maybe my processor going to execute the same instruction very soon. But in case of this, we are not only bringing the current executing instruction, along with that, I can go and access the next instructions, which are therefore, what are the instructions I want from main memory. Those instructions also I fetch it from the main memory, and those I keep onto my cache memory. That indicates a spatial locality of reference. There are two types of locality of references, friends. One is a temporal and second one is spatial. If the active segments of program can be placed in a fast cache memory, then the total execution time can be reduced significantly, absolutely. What is the active segment of a program or active part of a program? If that particular part of program, if I keep in my cache memory, know that the speed of operation of the system is increases, because the speed of operation of a cache memory is high. That's why here we can call as fast cache memory. What are the program on my processor want to go into execute? That program active part, I can keep that is into cache memory. Then the cache memory continuously supply the instructions to my processor. Then the processor may not be entering into wait state, and my processor going to execute that program at a faster rate. That means active part of program I have to keep in a cache memory instead of it was placed in main memory. Due to that, the speed of operation of the system is significantly improved. That is the meaning of our last point. The temporal aspect of the locality of reference suggests that whenever an information is first needed, this information should be brought into the cache where it remains until it is needed again. But exactly what a temporal locality of reference suggests? If one particular information asked by the CPU, we have to go and bring that information from the main memory, and that is keep it onto the cache. If that is used by the CPU, I need not be sent the same information back to the main memory. I have to keep it in the main memory itself, because very soon again my processor going to utilize it. So that suggests by temporal locality of reference. Coming to the next, the spatial aspect suggests that instead of fetching just one item from the memory to the cache, it is useful to fetch a block of items that reside at adjacent addresses as well. If I want some particular data item from a main memory which is not available on the cache, then what happens is, instead of accessing only that particular word from the memory, or instead of accessing only particular item from the memory, what I have to do is, I have to go and bring a block of items from the main memory to the cache. This is a block of items which are adjacent address of what are the data item I want. So this means I identify that, or I think that in near future my processor not only want this particular data item, I will go and access the upcoming data items from the main memory. So that I'll go and bring not only a single byte or single word or single data item from main memory, I'll go and bring a group of bytes or group of data items, a block of data items from main memory to a cache memory. So that indicates, or that suggests spatial locality of a reference. Fine. See here friends, generally this is the cache memory was a place between a processor and a main memory. Here I would like to give an important information to you friends to remember. The transaction between a cache memory and main memory always done in terms of blocks. You remember this. The data transferring was done between a cache memory and a main memory. It is always done in terms of blocks. Block means a group of words. A block means a group of words. And the data transaction between a processor and a cache, it is always done in terms of words. In terms of words. Your processor wants some particular word from the cache. If that word was present in the cache, it simply supply that word to the processor. If that particular word is not available in the cache, then what a cache can do is, it will go and bring that word related block from main memory to cache memory. So here I would like to clear one important thing. In case of cache memory, the information are arranged in terms of lines. That means it is like this. This is best you can assume a cache memory which may consist lines like this. It may consist lines like this. And coming to main memory, it may exist like this. This is your main memory. Let you can assume this is your main memory. This is the main memory. This main memory can be divided into number of blocks. It can be divided into number of blocks, but cache memory can be divided into number of lines. Here important condition is line size in a cache is equal to block size in main memory. That's important. Line size in a cache is equal to block size in main memory. For example, your block size is equal to some 8 words in main memory. Then the line size is equal to again 8 words, because those 8 words are stored in a line side by side. That means here I can go and place the first word, second word, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and then 8. That's why here important thing is the data transaction between a main memory and cache memory always done in terms of blocks or rather than in terms of words. But coming to the data transfer between a cache memory and a processor must be is in terms of words, not in terms of blocks. That you have to keep in your mind. Alright. When a read request is received from the processor, the contents of a block of memory words containing the location specified are transferred into the cache one word at a time. Whenever your processor issues some address or whenever your processor issues a request for a word to the cache, what a cache memory can do is it will go and verify all its lines. Whenever it will identify that corresponding word, simply what the cache can do is it simply supply that word to the processor itself. That's the meaning of this. When the program references any of the locations in this block, the desired contents are read directly from the cache. It is available, then I can transfer. The correspondence between the main memory blocks and those in the cache is specified by mapping function. Sometimes the situation may be like this, friends. Whenever your CPU asks something from the cache, that corresponding word not present in the cache memory, then what we have to do is note out that information was present in main memory. Instead of accessing only the corresponding word from the main memory, what I have to do is I have to go and verify that word was present in which block. First that block was I transferred to the cache. Later the corresponding word was transferred to a processor. In this case, what important thing is, we are transferring a block of information from main memory to the cache memory. This entire process, what we can call is mapping function. Mapping function. That means how the main memory blocks are copied onto the cache memory lines. This particular one, what we can call is mapping function. It plays a vital role when your processor was communicating with the cache memories. That you have to remember. When cache is full and a memory word that is not in the cache is a reference, the cache control hardware must decide which block should be removed to create a space for the new block that contains the referenced word. It is absolutely true. What is the meaning of this? If you observe your cache memory, no doubt the cache memory is smaller and it is faster. And the cache memory organized in terms of lines. We didn't found any empty line in the cache. That means always the cache memory is full with the data. Whenever your processor wants a particular word from the cache that is not generally existed in the cache, then what a cache controller or hardware circuit which controls entire cache operations, what it does, it will go on to bring a word which may contains any particular block of main memory that has moved to the cache. In order to move a block of data from main memory to the cache, first of all we have to give an empty line for it. In that process, what I have to do is, generally my cache memory is full with the data. Out of that, I have to go and vacate only one particular line of a cache to give a chance for new block which I am going to read from main memory. In order to selection of one particular line of a cache, I have to go and use a particular mechanisms. Those what we can call is replacement algorithms. With the help of some particular replacement algorithm, I select one particular line of a cache which must be vacant. That means that line we can send to the main memory and newly received block can be stored onto that corresponding line. In order to do that, we took the help of a replacement algorithm. What is replacement algorithm? Generally, this replacement algorithm is a collection of rules that making this decision. And what the decision? The decision here is we have to vacate one of the cache line for newly received block from main memory. So that what the decision here is. So that we do with the help of a replacement algorithms. Fine. Next, the cache control circuit determines whether the requested word currently existed in the cache or not. Yes, absolutely. What is the cache hardware we have? The cache hardware or control circuitry task is it have to go and verify whatever the word that can be asked by the processor which is exist in the cache memory or not. If it is exists in the cache memory, simply transfer. It is not there in the cache, then what it has to do is it has to go and bring the word which was present in which block. That block first it is transferred to cache memory from main memory. So that's important. If it does, the read or write operation is performed on the appropriate cache location. Absolutely right. Next, in this case, a read or write hit is said to have occurred. That means whenever the asked information is present in the cache, I can say that that is a read hit. Or if I want to write something onto any specific location, that location is available on the cache, then I can call that is a write hit. That means whatever the operation our processor is going to perform in a particular location, that location information is existed on the cache memory. No doubt that we can call as a hit operation. That is a hit. Your operation is read, that is read hit. Your operation is write, then that is write hit. That's what we can call. In a read hit, in a read operation, the main memory is not involved. For a write operation, the system can proceed in two ways. If it is a read operation, there is no chance for involvement of main memory. Yes, if the data is available in the cache, simply the cache transfer that data to a processor. In that case, no need of involvement of main memory. But if I want to do a write, definitely main memory also must be involved. Why? Because you have to listen carefully here. What are the information that was present in the cache? The same data also present in main memory, because the cache memory contains information already present in main memory. Let you can take a generalized example, that is like this. Let you can assume main memory is nothing but a bank and cache memory is nothing but a ATM. Whenever the user want to do any transaction, that means if I want to draw something from my account, either I can go for ATM center or I can go for bank. In a similar way, in this example, myself is nothing but a processor, and ATM center is nothing but a cache, and bank is nothing but a main memory. So, what all the information I have in a cache, no doubt that information also present in a main memory. But here important thing is, if I want to do a write operation, that write operation may be done at both the memory as well as cache memory. I have to do it, but I do this in two different ways. But if I want to do a read operation, in that case, no need of involvement of a main memory. I straight away go and do a read operation with the cache memories. What does it do? Write related ways. One is a write through mechanism. In this what we do, the cache location and the main memory location are updated simultaneously. And write through policy, what happens? If the CPU want to write something on any particular location, that location is present in the cache. Here my write operation is related to write through policy. Whatever the information I was transferred to that corresponding location, the updation was happened at both the cache memory as well as the main memory. But it is somewhat a time-taking process because we have to do modification at both the cache memory as well as at the main memory. We know that the speed of operation of main memory is low compared to processor as well as the cache memories. So that's why write-through policy is a time-taking process policy because we have to do modifications at both the cache memory as well as at the main memory. This is a major disadvantage we identify in case of a write-through policy. But at the same time, the advantage is what was the information that was present on the main memory? Absolutely, that is a valid data. It is not happened in the main memory because once the updation was going on in a cache, at the same time the updation also happened in main memory also. That's why always the main memory information was a valid information. You have to remember that. And coming to the second one, that is a write back policy or copy back policy. In this, only cache location was updated and it will mark it as updated with an associated flag bit, often called dirty bit or modified bit. Which is here called as what happens in case of second write policy? The second write policy is write back policy or copy back policy. In this particular policy, what happens is updation of data is happened only at a cache. Only that updation was happened in a cache. It is not happened in the main memory simultaneously. Because the problem with the write-through policy is updation was done at both the main memory and the cache memory. It is a time-taking process. Absolutely. In order to overcome that disadvantage, here what we do is the updation we did only in a cache memory, not in main memory. Both are done not simultaneously. First we do updation in a cache. Absolutely, to identify that updation line. Here what we have to do is we took the help of a specific bit or a specific status flag which is here called as dirty bit or modified bit. If that particular bit is set to go for any particular line of a cache, that means in that particular line some updation was happened. That updation is not happened in the main memory. Only that updation was happened in a cache. For that indication purpose, we took the help of a dirty bit or modified bit. Right? That's the important thing. The main memory location of the word is updated later. Yes, absolutely. When the block containing this marked word is to be removed from the cache to make room for new block. Whenever your CPU want a new information that is not there in a cache, absolutely they have to go and bring that information from main memory. In the process, already we know that the cache memory is filled with the data. Again, here all we have to do, vacate one of the line of a cache to give a chance for newly received block from main memory. In that particular process, what we are trying to do is we have to go and verify the modified bits or dirty bits of each and every line. Whose line dirty bit or modified bit is set to one, we give the preference to that particular line. We have to send that line to the cache memory and that line can be vacated and that vacated line will be dedicated to a newly received block. That's the meaning of this. Next, when the understood word in a read operation is not in the cache, a read miss is occurred. Absolutely. If the CPU of something, the data is not present in a cache, automatically what we can say is that was a read miss. If the data is present in a cache, it is called read hit. If the data is not present in a cache, it is called a read miss. The block of words that contains the requested word is copied from main memory into cache. After the entire block is loaded into cache, the particular word requested is forwarded to the processor. This approach is called load through or early restart. If the CPU has some word that is not present in the cache, then obviously what we have to do is we have to go and bring the data from main memory. In that process, first we go and verify that word was present in which block of main memory. That block of data first we transfer to the cache and thereafter we transfer the required word to a processor. This entire process what we can call is load through or early restart. That's the meaning of this. During a write operation, If the addressed word is not in the cache, a write miss occurs. Absolutely. In a read miss case, the required data is not present in the cache, a read miss was happening. If the CPU want to write something on a particular location, that location is not present in the cache, obviously we are getting a write miss. When if the write through protocol is used, write through protocol what it is? The modifications are done both at cache as well as main memory. The information written directly into main memory. Absolutely. Why? Because whatever the location, if you want to do a write operation that is not present on the cache, absolutely it was present in main memory. So straight away here what is my CPU can do is go and do a modification only at the main memory, not at the cache, because the corresponding location is not present in cache. That's the meaning of this. In the case of write back protocol, the block containing the addressed word is first brought into the cache, and then the desired word in the cache is overwritten with a new information. What a write back policy? We did the modification only at cache, but right now that location was not present in cache memory. Then what we have to do? We have to go and bring that addressed location block from main memory to the cache. We do modification in cache with a new information. In that case, we are not doing a modification at a main memory because it is a write back policy. Yes. So that is about the cache memories. I hope you understand. I give a little bit idea regarding to cache. In the next class, I am going to discuss about mapping functions. That is also related to cache. So that is also somewhat more interesting. Like this. I will meet in the next class. Thank you for patient listening. Having a nice day. Thank you.